Hello, I'm Sam from the Howl The Hum. With me are Danny Lavin and Megan McClean, who directed The Same Mistake Twice music video, and we're going to discuss the creation of it and the inspiration behind it and have a little chat about all of that. So I guess if you guys wanted to introduce yourselves first. So I actually met Meggie first when I first moved to Leeds, and we started a band together after a very boozy night at the Brudenell
We did.
called Reptile Marquee
We did, and we made a great 12-track album
in one night
in one night, and it's a masterpiece, and it will be released to the world
when
at some point.
when I find it.
We have it on WhatsApp. I'll send it over.
Great, perfect. And how do you guys know each other?
Well, we met each other shooting a feature film.
Yes, that's right. Yeah.
Yeah.
So my old lecturer, directing lecturer, was shooting a PhD feature film, and you were the production designer on it, and I came on as the camera assistant.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We met each other on the northwest coast of Ireland.
We did.
And then I saw you with the gimbal, and I said, I gotta make sure I shoot something with that guy. Running down the beach.
Yeah, it was a cracking shoot.
Great.
A lot of fun.
And then I didn't see Meggie for ages, right? I just didn't see because you were off shooting films and I was off touring, and then COVID. No one really saw anyone. And then I bumped into Meggie again at a coffee shop down the road, and we realised how fun it would be to make a music video together because we were in the process of probably finishing off the album at that point. And the original idea to work together was to make a music video for a song on the album called No Calories in Cocaine. We then realised that that couldn't really be a single due to its lyrical explicit content. But the idea for the music video was so good, and it involved, I forgot to introduce him, but Norman here. So Norman was created before Same Mistake Twice was realised it was going to be a single. Norman became more of a concept to do with the album, I guess. But it was Meggie's idea, so Meggie, if you want to explain the birth of Norman.
Okay, the birth of Norman. So we had a discussion, and you said you wanted something to do with a paper mache head. And then I said, we need to create a character around this head and this person. And Norman initially had hair, and he had long, beautiful ginger hair. And over time, he just aged. He wasn't doing very well, cries a lot. And I think at the time as well, I was looking at northern English working men's pubs, and the people that I was meeting through them, because I was spending a lot of time, not a lot of time, but I was spending time in working men's pubs, and I wanted to encapsulate people that I was meeting into Norman, and then all of our anxieties, our fears into Norman as well, and I just loved the tale of him, and we developed that through no calories in cocaine, and then it transitioned into Same Mistake Twice. But he's a really interesting character, and he's been with me for the past 8 months. He's changed my life. I've made his life.
Yeah, you invented his life. Because he became a sort of manifestation of, because the album is all about sort of anxiety and dread and how people perceive us and how we are seen. And he became this odd manifestation, mainly through our conversations about talking to each other about it. And no calories in cocaine is sort of all about excess and what we do to ourselves and what we tell ourselves we're doing it for. And he became sort of a face of that. And then when we realised that maybe we couldn't make that music video quite yet, Same Mistake Twice came along and became sort of a bit of an anthem about all of the mistakes in your life, and who better to encapsulate that than a manifestation of all of your dread. So this is where this came from. And I don't know if you can reach over, can you grab those masks? Because some of the ideas that we started to have, Meggie started to make all of these mood boards. Norman! He's a clumsy fella.
He's a clumsy boy.
He's okay.
But some of the mood boards that you started to create right at the start involved little masks like these, and the Seventh Seal was a
The
calling
Seventh Seal
point.
was a massive inspiration, and the round head and the cloak and magic realism almost. And I think that's what we were speaking about a lot, and we were also reading a lot of books on magic realism, like Aleister Gray, and the films that we were watching, and it just inspired the world that we wanted to create.
Yeah.
You know?
I did watch Frank, because at one point I felt like we were veering a little too close to Frank's side bottom.
Yeah.
I do think it evaded it in the end, and I don't think the overall the final version of the cut, it obviously owes a little bit to the legacy of Frank Sidebottom, as it says in the video. But I think overall it's evaded it. It's a manifestation of something completely different. Maybe they're cousins.
They're cousins, distant cousins.
Distant cousins, maybe related. And then, so because you guys had worked together previously, Meggie, why did you get Danny on board?
The reason I got lovely Danny Lavin on board is because, first of all, I knew my strengths, and my strengths were in design, and I wanted somebody that I trusted, respected, and I thought that they were capable, you know, just really hardworking.
Oh, you're flattering me.
I know, but I just knew that you, first of all, knew what you were talking about, and you knew how to create worlds through the camera and through lighting, and you were just amazing, and I could just co-direct with you, and it'd be so easy because then we could bring two sides to making the video, and that's design and that's cine, and then everything else we can
just figure out.
We can figure it out.
As we go. But I think as a team, I think we worked really well together because, like you say, we're kind of two sides of directing.
Yeah.
And when you come together, like your understanding and grasp on character and directing character, and then how that translates to location and setting, and how the character physically and emotionally relates to the surroundings.
Yeah.
And I think that really shone through with Norman and his look, his aesthetic, and then also the Solitaire Club where we filmed.
Yeah.
And I think it all just shone through. And it made my life a lot easier working with Megan, because if I just pointed the camera at whatever Megan had put in front of it, it just worked really well. So it was quite easy.
Yeah, I just said, Danny, I trust you. You do your thing. I know what you're doing. It's fine. Yeah. What shot are we doing? Perfect. Let's go.
Yeah.
And then
it just worked.
Yeah, it works so well. And
also
so
good
easy.
crack.
Good crack
as well. Yeah. Yeah.
And how did you take some of Maggie's, so we're going to go through some of Maggie's designs shortly, but how, for example, did you take some of Maggie's ideas and turn them into things that were filmable, that were on screen? Leave his hands, they're fine. They're dead. How did you turn Maggie's ideas into more visual elements then?
So, looking at Norm, he was kind of he's the epicenter of the entire video. And the whole concept, the mentality behind Norm, is that he feels slightly out of place, and he doesn't quite fit in, and he's trying to, and he's trying to make it in the world. He's trying to prove himself through his creativity and reach out to people through his music. But people weren't taking him seriously and taking him on, and so there's that dichotomy there between what he wanted to do and what he actually was doing. And so I wanted to replicate that visually.
Yeah.
And we did that through various techniques. So things like zooming in and out, which distorts the reality between what's in front of the lens and what the camera catches, because it pushes things away, it pulls it closer. It kind of creates this timeless feel, but it's also dated, because that zoom in feel is something quite retro now. It's not really done that much.
Very 70s, 60s, 70s, and I think that's what we were looking at in terms of the design as well.
Yeah. And so it didn't seem out of place, that technique, with the things that Megan put in front of the camera.
Yeah. And the Solitaire Club as well did feel like it hadn't really been changed since the early 70s.
No, I don't think it has been.
The pictures on the wall and I mean, they were so generous to us and so kind to us in letting us use basically the entire building. It's
an amazing space.
It's unbelievable.
Yeah, and the colours in it.
Yes.
Oh,
I think the colours then helped. They sort of brought about the entire campaign. It's the colours that we're going to use essentially for all of the visuals for the album, but it came from that shoot and from the colour of the Solitaire Club, the curtains, the backdrops, the bar, everything about it just sort of like feeds into an element of like both stagnation and a world moving around someone who can't let go. I think that came from the character. And going into that character a little bit more, we can now talk about Maggie's creations, because although they were only subtle scenes in the video, they're also on the album cover. Maggie made brands of cigarettes. She made actual cigarettes herself, which are just in the little ashtray there. Do you want to bring them out and see if we can bring them to the fore a little bit?
So these are prop cigarettes, but then I also have clay ones. Uh, and then, so the reason I got these cigarettes was because, well, I guess Norman is quite cartoonesque, and I was looking at people like Philip Guston and stuff. But I like the idea of Jean, whenever she was smoking a cigarette, she'd only take one puff and then she'd put it out. And playing around with humour as well. In every aspect of the props, there is humour that we brought into it. Like the poster, for example. The poster is of Norman in his younger years. I went to the Caroline Club and I was taking photos of all the posters there that I love so much. A lot of them are from like the 80s. And the idea that he was young, youthful, beautiful young man. And then we track in on him, we zoom out, and then it's Norman, bald, he's got wrinkly bits, his eyes are red, it's because he's crying all the time. He's been working in the club every Saturday for the past like 30 years, and he thought he'd be famous by now, but he's not. And then we have funny elements like letters that Hubert, who's one of the characters that cries, but you don't see the letter. Should I read it?
I'd love you for you to read it. Otherwise it's going ignored. It's so perfect.
So Hubert works for this insurance company called Hugh Murray Insurance, and that was a link to me ma's boyfriend. She'd appreciate that.
And Hubert is the extra with glasses.
With glasses, and he has his little name tag on, and the whole character development around Hubert is that he loves being a salesperson, but he's the worst salesperson ever. He doesn't sell anything. So he gets a letter in the post that day. Hubert's the worst salesperson you ever meet. He's passionate about it, he loves it, but they send him a report of the stocks that are crashing because his selling is so bad, and they send him a letter and there's a coffee stain on it. They don't care about him. It says, "Dear Hubert Blarney, we are writing to inform you of your position within our company. We regret to tell you that you've been let go. This is due to your sales being so bad that they're almost a joke. Big Dave Big Dave brought your sales report to the office today, and we all made a joke of how bad your sales really are. We hope that this letter finds you well and that you go on to never be a sales rep again in your life.
Oh my God, that's so hard.
The worst salesperson in all the land. Kindest regards, Hugh Murray."
That would make me cry.
Fuck Hugh Murray, man. Yeah. Fuck Hugh Murray.
Yeah, he's so mean. He's a horrible, horrible brute of a man. But so Hubert goes into the pub and he's never been there. And he's sitting reading this letter, and he just like cries his eyes out at the end. And he's holding onto his suitcase, and on his suitcase he had like made stickers because nobody gave him a name tag or anything. So he made his own little name tag that he wears, and he brings it about with him. These are cigarette packets that I made. They're called Bad Boy cigarettes, and it's a dog smoking a cigarette based on cow bars. And let me just tear the seal. So they all have little seals, and it says, "Bad Boy cigarettes are made from the nastiest tobacco in town, not for good boys, will likely make you ill, smoke at own risk."
Amazing.
So yeah, all of them have like loads of details that are like linked to the humour of the world, and even the ales and the logos that I made, all of the colour palettes are linked to this world and this creation, and a humorous style of a working men's pub, and the humour that's within them, you know, and things that don't really make sense or don't work, but they blend or communicate quite well together and tell stories. And then there's some whiskey that I made as well that Hubert was drinking. So he brought his own Irish whiskey to the pub and he was necking it. So the contents of this drink include shame 20%, guilt 10%, courage 10%, chaos 20%, hangover to remember 20%, alcohol through the roof. Please drink responsibly. And it makes me laugh. And then there's newspapers. So inside the newspaper, there's nothing. It's repeats. But oh my God, secret to the prop world. But in the front of the newspaper, it's called Fisherman Blues. And then I drew a logo of a trout flying through the sea.
You drew that?
Yeah.
That's amazing.
Yeah.
It's all amazing. There's so much detail.
It's extraordinary.
There's so much stuff going on
so
here.
Impressive.
It's ridiculous.
There's funny things. I just really enjoyed having the crack by myself, creating those stories that nobody knows about. So there's a writer called Julian Bullion who writes for the Fisherman Blues. She wrote an article called The Cat Sisters and Cats with Conscious Thought, ? It's about 2 cat sisters that end up eating some plants that are psychoactive, end up communicating with the other cats, creating a cat uprising, and then fighting the humans.
That's a music video in itself.
I mean, I think we need to put these all somewhere, or we'll put the images somewhere where everyone can see them, maybe on the website, because the fact that these are just glossed over the shot seems so unfair. There's so much thought and process that goes into all of this, but it all adds so much character, and I love it. But people wouldn't know about it if they didn't watch this video.
But you just end up having so much fun with it, and like you're giving personal things about yourself to you. Like there's one called Dreams. It's Miranda Doherty, and it's about her having a dream, having a dream, which I had, about meeting a dog at a bus stop and the dog asking to go get a couple of cans. And
So do these articles actually read? You've written these and...
Yeah, they're just silly. That they probably have loads of spelling mistakes and stuff. And then there's Hickey Mary from the bog, which is an old saying where I come from. And a woman that grew up in the bogs, and about her telling stories, because I was reading loads of things about Paige Sayers at the time, and the saying that she says is keep your wish about you. So every prop in the world they create, it's just fun and humour, and even though Norman's character can be quite dark and heavy, and it is quite heavy, you still need to bring humour to it, because if you don't laugh, you cry, I guess.
Exactly, yeah.
And I think it shows in the video how much fun you had making these props.
Yeah.
Because you see the detail. Yeah. From afar, you don't get to read like the article, which would be great if we could put it somewhere where people can actually read it and see it.
Oh, I need to check for spelling mistakes then.
But it certainly shows in the video. It really does. Yeah.
I love it when what's Steve's character again? There's Jean, Hubert, and Terence. And he carries his dead wife around with him in an urn, and then a photo of her, which is a Victorian photo. It's from like 1901, so we don't actually know how old Terence is or if he's a vampire, but nobody questions it. But he carries his wife around in an urn and has a whiskey with her all the time.
It's quite cute.
It is quite cute.
Yeah.
It's precious. Yeah.
And then one last question, which is for Danny. Which cameras and lenses were used and why? Little question for the nerds.
Technical question.
Yeah.
So we used the FX3 to shoot, which famously recently filmed the Creator feature film, Hollywood film. It's a cracking little camera, full frame, small compact body. And then we coupled that with a PL adapter and a 2x PL mount with an Arri Allura 45 to 250 zoom, so then it became a 90 to 500 millimeter zoom, so we could get even closer to the subjects. Great. So we could zoom all the way in, see Norman's big beautiful face, fill the entire full frame screen.
We were talking about Poor Things as well, weren't we, in the build up to the video, because we'd seen it, and they used that ridiculous lens that lets you zoom in a really frightening amount. Like I can't, I've got no idea about technical specifications, but it gives you this sense of kind of ominous desire in which you're zooming in, and it keeps going further than you feel you should be allowed to see. Yeah. And I feel there's an element of that.
That's a great way of putting it. Yeah.
Yeah, it's gorgeous.
Zooming in further than you should be allowed to see. Yeah. Yeah. And then there's like an uncomfortable intimacy with Norman.
Yeah.
And the other audience members. Yeah. Because you feel like you're invading the personal space.
Exactly. Yeah. Perfect. Yeah. Wonderful. Thanks so much. I think that should wrap us up nicely. But thanks so much for directing a video that I think we're all incredibly proud of.
Yeah, I think we should all be very proud. I think it's...
Yeah, I think we should be very proud.
I think the song is amazing.
The song is amazing. Yeah, the team that we had on that day, thank you to everybody.
So yes. Good. And we'll put their names at the end of this
I'd like to shout out the cine crew. So we had Steve Wyatt, who came out and drove over the Pennines, and he only did a half day because he had to go off and do other stuff. But he gave us his time and his excellent knowledge, and he was our gaffer. And the film would not look as good as it does without Steve.
Yes,
he's
Steve.
a gem of a person and a personal friend of mine, and he's just cracking.
Yeah.
And then we had Omer doing the first AC, pulling focus. That's why everything's so crisp and sharp.
Thank you, Omer.
Thank you, Omer.
They're all amazing.
Yes. So, and then all our wonderful art assistants and
thank you to everybody.
everyone
And runners
everyone.
and gaffers and everything. They were all so good. And the band, of course.
And the band. There's just picking a team like that. I know we're closing it off, but I just want to say that the team that we had together was just a lot of love and kindness and patience and just respect for one another, and that's what we wanted when we pulled this project together.
Doing it with a smile.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Perfect. Right, that's us done.
Okay,
nice.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, guys.